I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And, you know, life growing up in our family was just about as normal as everybody else's family. Grew up in a nice Protestant home. Nothing was unusual, abnormal. My parents were not aware of any psychic abilities that they had when they were young. When I was a little girl, I was always very sensitive, I think overly sensitive, and it affected my life a lot. It affected me physically. I had a lot of health problems when I was little. It was like I would come home from school and I would go into my room and I would create a little classroom. I would set all my dolls up and I'd set up my chalkboard, and I would do exactly as my teacher did that day. And I would teach my dolls. I was always most comfortable when I was just by myself. I felt better physically, mentally. I could handle things better if I was by myself. But I found when I was, even with my whole family or in school, it seemed like there was always so much coming at me that it was hard to deal with everything. And I think that's why I had a lot of health problems as a child. Something else that was kind of silly, but back then people would make fun of my name. And there was a song back then, Little Sir Echo, and my teacher used to have me stand behind the piano, and the class would sing, Little Sir Echo, how do you do? And in the song they say, hello, and then the person behind the stage answers back, hello. And I used to just die when I had to play the part of Little Sir Echo behind the piano, or behind the wall, because I didn't want the attention, I didn't want to be focused on. Like I said, I was very shy, and back then I would have given anything if my name was just Susie or Barbie or Kathy, but not Echo. It was too hard for me. As far back as I can remember, I think around age 5 it probably started, there was a male voice that would come and talk to me. And he would just say things to me like, everything's going to be okay. If I was in a situation where I was feeling afraid, like at work, or at school, or at home, the voice would just appear. I mean, not appear physically, but out of nowhere, the voice would say, everything's going to be okay. The voice also used to tell me all the time to go to Sunday school and learn everything that I could about Jesus. And I didn't know why, but I would go. Whatever this voice was, and I, as a 5-year-old, as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, I used to think that this voice was God's voice. Just had no doubt in my mind that this was God talking to me. The voice used to say to me, Jesus is your older brother, and he came to show you how to live your life. Okay. And I'd go off to Sunday school, and I always felt really ripped off when there would be a different lesson that day than talking about Jesus, because that's all I cared about when I went to church, was hearing about Jesus. The voice also used to tell me if a situation happened that was emotionally painful, the voice would say, pay attention to this. Or it would say, remember this for when you grow up. Sometimes the voice would say, you will use this knowledge later on in your life. And I would hear that when I was 7 years old. When I was 17 years old, we were all sitting around the dinner table one night, and my brother, who was 14 at the time, he was just learning how to play the drums. My parents had bought him a drum set. Every night after dinner, he would go downstairs to play the drums. And he always sounded terrible. And this one particular night, he went downstairs, was clanking away at the drums, and all of a sudden, this really nice drumming music came from the basement. And we all looked at my dad as if he would know what was going on, and he said, I don't know, it must be the record that I had just bought him. My brother was hysterical. He came flying up the stairs and said, did you hear it? Did you hear it? And we were like, yeah, what was it? He couldn't even talk. He was so upset. And then he said there was a white figure that floated through the door and floated up to him, and it had hands, and the hands came down on top of his hands, and he said that his hands then played this really nice drumming music. And so we're just like, what? And he was like, no lie, it just happened, and it was this white thing, and he said, I closed my eyes really tight, but I could still see it anyway. Mom was in a prayer group at that time, and she said that there was a woman in her prayer group who knew of a medium from England that was living in St. Paul. And she said, I will call Julia and find out what to do and maybe get the number of that medium. My mom called the psychic, the medium, and the psychic said to her, yes, Mrs. Bodine, I've been expecting your phone call. She said, what just happened was that your son just met his guardian angel, and his name is Dr. Fitzgerald. And she said when he was living on Earth, he was a drummer, and that he is going to teach your son how to play the drums. And she said to Mom, you have some very gifted children, and I'd like to see each one of them for a psychic reading. We were absolutely freaked out that night. I don't think I slept with my lights on. I mean, I did sleep with my lights on because I was so afraid of, well, what if my guardian angel appears to me, and, well, what did this lady mean that we're all gifted? What does all this mean? Like I said, I was 17 years old. I was very shy. You know, I couldn't imagine what she was going to tell me. And I remember talking to Mom on the way over about, well, you know, what's going to happen? What is this all about? And Mom saying, you know, maybe you should think of some questions. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So I thought, okay, well, I'll ask her when I'm going to meet Mr. Wright and how many children I'm going to have. I was in my mind. I was imagining this psychic with, oh, I don't know, big dangly earrings and shawl and black cats, and in my mind it was going to be really a spooky experience. And instead, this very sweet, round, petite woman from England opened the door and invited us in and introduced us to her very normal-looking husband, and the house looked normal. Everything seemed so normal, and then she brought me into her reading room and began to tell me that the information that she was getting was coming from my spirit guides. And she said that they were helpers from the other side. And she said that she had some important information for me. And she said that I was born with psychic abilities, with clairvoyance, which is the gift of seeing visions or images or pictures, clairaudience, which is the gift of hearing, and she said I was born with the gift of healing. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, this woman is absolutely crazy. This is not, none of this was in my reality, none of this. And I told her, I said, you know, I don't want any of this weird stuff. I just want to have a nice normal life. And she said, no, you didn't come here this lifetime to have a nice normal life. She said, you came to be a teacher and a healer.